So this is part 3 of the Vitesse restoration. Now this video is all about making the car presentable so I can actually drive it around. I was actually moving house during this time, so I thought it would be brilliant if I got it on the road and presentable so I could actually use it to move house, because that boot is humongous. So that came in quite a treat when I was moving house. As most of you have seen by the first 2 videos in the advert, it's covered in red oxide, which is perfect really, because of course the rust has all been treated. So we sanded down that red oxide, not as thoroughly as I liked because we were in a bit of a rush, unfortunately. Put some grey primer on it, and then put the base coat on, and then clear. It looks pretty good from like 400 yards away, but it's not perfect. I can remember I made this joke when I was doing it, where I walked all the way behind this tree and I was like, looks good. So yeah, it looks okay. It's not the best, like I said, but I did redo these because they really got on my nerves. I just couldn't stand it. Obviously the car's getting a respray anyway, but I just thought, hey, I'll just redo it and I'll do it properly. So you'll see that in a later video. Another part of making this car look a bit more presentable is the bumpers. Now, as you can see by this video or the video previously, the front bumper on this car is cracked. It looks like it's cracked in one place, but when you take the number plate plinth off, it's cracked in 3 places. So my original plan was, before I obviously found this out, was just to push the bumper back together, hold it together with 2 G-clamps and like a piece of wood, and then sort of filler it back together. But like I said, it's cracked in 3 places, so not much I can do now. I actually have another big bumper in the garage, but I managed to get my hands on 2 short bumpers, and that is my preferred model. So they're from the earlier ones, so 89 backwards, 90 forwards has the bigger bumpers. So that's what this car is. I think it's a 91, so it's a Mark 1C, one of the last ones, and it obviously didn't come with these bumpers, but I prefer them, so I put them on. I didn't really want to have the holes for the jet wash things for the lights, so I decided to fill those in. I was actually going to see if I could acquire some, but I couldn't really be bothered. There was someone selling some from a Sterling on eBay, but didn't really want to have to deal with that, so I decided just to fill them in. This is the first time I've obviously ever painted a bumper, as you can or cannot see by my work. Obviously you're the judge, but it looks good in my opinion, so that's all that really counts. I covered the black bit in masking tape, and then obviously that was after I sanded it all down. First coat of primer, it looks pretty good. I was quite happy with how the primer turned out on this one actually. I thought may as well just leave that on, can't get any better than this. Of course, I think these actually turned out pretty well. I think though I should have shaken the cans a little bit more on this front bumper, and obviously fitting it is actually fairly easy. So it's just taking the lights off and then taking that weird grill thing off, the slanted grill, and then it sort of comes off with 2 big bolts. I think there's something like 26mm. It's sort of the same for the back actually, and then it has those 2 little slidey things that the 2 runner things slide into, and that obviously holds it all in place. I found it pretty funny that I found a spanner in the works after driving it about 300 miles. So I took that out, and the bumper was obviously off, which was perfect. So now we put the new bumper on. I think this is the first time where I actually felt this car was coming together, and I was like, this hard work isn't really for nothing. You know, like you or the most classic cars where you fix one thing, another thing breaks, you fix another thing breaks. That's kind of how this one was. So I'd fix like, for example, we sorted the PGMFI light out, and then all of a sudden the gear selector decided not to work. You sort the gear selector out, and then the trip computer display decides it doesn't want to work. That's just classic car life, I guess. But This time, obviously, when I stood back and I looked at it, and you know when you've done a good job, and I looked at that car and I was like, I've done a good one, besides that wonky bit of black paint. But other than that, I think I did a pretty good job on it, and it looks a damn sight better than it did before. Technically, I reverse facelifted my car, so I face unlifted the car. It just find it a bit weird, like seeing the lights and stuff going back in. It's quite satisfying though at the same time, but obviously it's like a face going back together, and the car obviously gets its like identity back, and it looks like a car again. Of course, I had the tow bar removed as well from the back during this time, so we could make the back look presentable and replace that rear bumper. Unfortunately though, I think when I picked the car up, a bit of the paint had started flaking off that bumper. I tried to spray it like so hard, like just that area. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, so I got that new short bumper to match the front short bumper, and we obviously started painting that so I could put that on. There we are, she is all back together at the front, minus obviously the middle section of that little splitter thing, but it looks really nice. I'm really pleased. Like I said, it was quite a good moment. I was like, you know, it's all come to this. I finally got there. So yeah, it's just nice seeing her all back together. So on to the rear bumper. I thought I would include this. It's just making the metal finishers, the middle metal strips for the rubbing strips, look a bit better. It just finishes the car off for me, and I couldn't really stand just seeing the rusty screw holes, so I just thought I'd include this. Now we're at the rear bumper. As you can see, the tow bar has been removed. It's actually quite easy, similar thing, two 26mm bolts I think, some washers, and then the whole bumper just slides backwards. Obviously there is two small Phillips screws just holding the arch liners onto the rear bumper. So here's the replacement bumper. Obviously I'm cleaning it down. We've got to sand it and prep it and everything for paint, and then actually paint it. So I thought this one actually turned out not as good as the front bumper. I think I was quite fatigued that day with the amount of car stuff I was doing, but yeah, I think, to be quite honest with you, for like, what was it, like £22 for the paint and a £5 for some sandpaper, didn't go too wrong. The car looks pretty presentable. I think the main issue with the car and its paint really is it's faded for so long. It's actually supposed to have sort of a bluey tint to it because it's a metallic, but unfortunately it just looks silver now. So obviously when it gets a respray, it's going to look a lot better. So there we are. Thank you for watching, and keep watching. Remember to subscribe, and there will be another one of these next week, hopefully.